We are live. Thank you everybody for joining. I'm really glad to be here today discussing business development, technology, and construction. So, what do all these things have to do with each other? I'm excited to drive the conversation today with Jeremy, Enoch, and Taylor. And I'll kick it off to the team here to give an introduction to yourself and I guess maybe a little bit about what you're working on and how your role fits in with business development. So I'll first start off with Enoch with Kiese.
Yeah,
Hopefully I didn't
thanks.
butcher the name too much.
No, you did not. It's all good. Thanks, Erin, for having us today in the webinar. I'm Enoque Panzo, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Kiese Technologies. My background, I worked in construction for many, many years and kind of delved into business development while working in construction as well. And currently, I run Kiese Technologies. We are a construction-specific CRM, so we work with general contractors, subtrades, and some ACE designers to manage their business development process. So instead of using generic systems like Salesforce, they use our CRM, which is more tailored and focused in construction business development. So it's a bit about me. I'll pass it on to the others.
All right. And I see some heart reactions in the chat. So thank you so much for that. As a note, like please do give reactions, questions, comments through that comment box or that chat box. So we will see it and appreciate your engagement. I'll pass it on next to Taylor.
Yeah, so happy to be here. Taylor Edwards. Currently, I'm customer success manager for Clearstory, which is a change order communication tool that's built for all stakeholders on construction projects to share their change order requests and for contractors to do digital T&M tickets. I come from the construction industry myself. I worked for one of the largest GCs for about 8 years. And during that time, tying it back to business development, I held a business development role during my time there. So a lot of the skills I've learned and had to utilize in that role has continued to apply to what I do today on the technology side of construction. So happy to and excited to chat through all that today with everybody.
Thanks, Taylor. And then last but not least, Jeremy.
Yes, Jeremy Montufar. Been in business development for 20 plus years, but working in the construction industry. Currently working with Ocilex Labs, which we provide technology for construction sites for analytics. And the purpose of that is to secure your sites, but also get the information that you need to be able to have a better plan moving forward. Yeah, I'd really enjoy working in the technology side of the business. Actually, my 20 years has primarily been in the construction industry, has been on the technology side. So very excited to be here and talk about business development and technology.
Yeah, amazing. All right. So we've got a stellar lineup here, and I want to kick it off with kind of being devil's advocate a little bit. Why do we even bother with business development, right? Because I think with a lot of the industry, we focus a lot on like the estimating portion, the bidding portion, the RFP process. So why do business development, or why have like a whole separate thing for that? And feel free anybody to jump in and take it.
I can start it off. My observation has been through relationships. You're right. I've always heard this. I'm sure we've all heard this over and over again. Lowest price is going to get the deal. I've witnessed this over and over again. If you're able to build a relationship earlier in the process and work with the clients and all the parties involved, you'll be able to build that trust and understand what they need and better align. Because let's be honest, not all RFPs cover off everything that is required. And if you start that relationship, you can find out what's needed, you can build that trust, and then it's not just all based on price, and you're better aligned.
Yeah, I can add too. Like construction is all about relationships. That's that's really what makes this
Yeah.
industry work, right? It's all built on in relationships are built on trust. When I go out and meet people and I try to sell them software, and some people say, I just bid work. Like I don't need anything. And it's just about bidding work. And sometimes I have to explain because I remember when I first got into the industry, I did work in estimating and we just did bid work. right? And it was terrible experience because I would go into this bid openings and they'd be like, "You didn't win." It was like playing the sorry games, right? And then
Yeah.
shifting from that to a company that actually did business development
Yeah.
and where you can actually create a plan and you met with people, you had the relationships, you tracked things. It was such a different, like it was so different, like viewing like the relationship as something that gets you work and not only gets you work, but actually gets you good work, the work that you
Yeah.
want to do versus just I'm just throwing in a number out there and hoping that I'm the low guy and that I didn't miss anything. And then I would lose, you know what I mean? You go in and it becomes problematic, right? So,
Yeah.
so that's kind of the importance of doing business development is to maintain a relationship so that you're not just bidding, so that you are getting called when someone needs you to do a project, or you're getting called, you're like one of three, and now you can submit your proposal without having to compete with like 100 other guys, right? So that's kind of, my take on why you would want to do business development in construction.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like to add on that too, I think owners are even looking more for contractors to come with them with the relationship rather than just the low bid. I mean, more and more you're seeing contract types that are driving contractor selection based on qualifications and relationships more so than just low bid and bidding in a number. So I think a lot of people have understood that and have understood that for a while, that that's the proper way to do things is do it through relationships, work with people you want to work with, right? Like people will say that all the time. So if you can build the relationships in and create that positive relationship with people, then that's just going to help you with getting more work and stuff in the future.
Yeah.
I think what each of you have kind of touched on is that you're building trust and people want to work with, those that they trust, that they know. And that trust, like through the relationships, it's interesting because you can't necessarily like tangibly see it, but it's there when it's there.
Yeah.
Which kind of leads me to my next question. So it's business development, it's kind of a tough thing to quantify. Like, how do you quantify a relationship? So can we talk about that? Like, how do you know if it's going well? Like, how do you even start to establish any of these quality connections?
Well, I can take one where so I learned something back as an intern way back in the day. And this came from an executive of the company I was interning with at the time, is he said there's, people think there's three phases of construction, pre-con, construction, and closeout. But he goes, there's actually four phases of construction: pre-con, construction, closeout, and next. Right.
Nice.
And if you perform well with everything and you maintain that relationship throughout, you're gonna get the next. So maybe you can't quantify it by number through that mindset, but if you're always looking for the possibility or to get the phone call or to get somebody to call you up through that idea of next, that's a way that you're going to be able to help measure, if you're getting repeat work with a similar client, that's going to help your measurement to be able to quantify how you can take that, quantify business development through for your business.
I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Erin.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, yeah, getting into the intern vault there. So some good
Yeah.
lessons learned.
I remember that one for a long time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think BD is a hard one because to quantify for sure. Like I actually was talking to one of my clients a few weeks ago, and he's like, how do I show this to like to like people like that I work for? Like how do I show them like what I'm working on and the relationships I'm building, right? And it is hard to quantify, but I think you can see where things are going by watching what people that you're meeting and are they making that phone call to you when they need you for something. It might not be that they're giving you a project, but when they need expertise or they need someone to just like bounce an idea off, are they reaching out to you, right? That's kind of how you know where that relationship is. And what like as Taylor said, what's next? Like are they, when you're working with them, are they talking to you about the next, right? And a lot of times that if you build a solid relationship, they'll be talking to you about the next, like, and you might not be in a role where you're actually performing the work, but they could reach out to you as a person who they have the relationship, say, hey, there's something else coming, be aware of it, right? Like you might be down the pipeline, but I think just they'll reach out, like people will reach out to
Mm.
you when they need you, and you kind of can quantify and say, hey, like this is how I know these relationships are bearing fruits, because
Yeah.
people reach out to me because I do help them when they need me.
If I were to piggyback off of Enoch's statement there, I totally agree. In our industry, in the construction industry, intelligence is what we can weigh things. So if people are communicating with you between projects, or like Taylor said, that there's the next. We know they're not. We can't always guarantee, depending on variables, manpower, things of that nature, right? In regards to the construction industry, but if someone comes to you and they're looking for assistance, and you may not even be a part of the project, you've built that relationship and trust. And you may not benefit necessarily today, but you will benefit in the future. That's how I've measured relationships. And one of the organizations I worked for a long time, there was a lot of energy put into that type of relationship where, well, where can we help them today? We're providing solutions, right? And they'll come to us down the road when they, the next project. So I firmly believe that's how I measure, and that's a great measurement tool.
Gotcha. All right. So shifting gears a little bit now, and like even digging a bit deeper on this as well. So how does technology kind of play into managing it, right? So you can't manage what you can't measure. We want to measure something that's intangible. It sounds really hard, and I know, as many of us do in this industry, we all end up in Excel spreadsheets and like a million Excel spreadsheets everywhere. So curious to hear this group's thoughts and your experiences really on how you're using technology to help, wrangle your or get your arms around this thing that seems like it's kind of really hard, if not impossible, to measure and share with others.
Well, I can probably kick off on that one. I mean, the obvious one, if you're not using a CRM, I mean, that's a totally different subject matter.
Mhm.
You need to really evaluate everything that you're doing if you're not using a CRM. Excel sheets, as you're sort of ingesting with, it doesn't really tell a story. I know for myself, the key thing, I'm going to go back to what I said in my last statement about intelligence. My brain can only hold so much.
Mhm.
And the way I like to use technology is to be able to record. I mean, we've got so many things available to us these days. We go back from the old PDA days, and you're trying to use your stylus and try to make notes, where now I was talking to Enoque about this opportunity on, this date and the street, da 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 da. Great. I just recorded it on my phone. Then you use AI like Otter AI to be able to dictate your notes after you've, then you've got your notes in written form. And you can then attach that to your CRM. Then you've got the ability to follow up. But that's for me, that's huge, because I'm sure everyone that's listening, we have these great ideas, or we've had this great interaction, or we're at a conference and we're talking to people, and there's only so much we can write down and do. So just quickly, if I'm not saying you have to go out and buy a watch or whatever, use your phone, but just, I had a great conversation with Taylor. It was about this, that, and everything else. Remind myself to get in touch with him. Anyways, I'll stop there and see if anyone else has anything else they'd like to say. But yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Before anyone else chimes in, there is a great comment in the chat. So using an online platform that allows for proper web-based integrations and automations, Monday.com, Notion, Smartsheet, etc., are great options. So thanks for sharing that comment. Looks like that's Hassan. So shout out to you. Couple other comments coming in. Great group. Looking forward to the insights. So just a reminder to the audience as well. I see we have a couple people joining in. You can ask questions as well and leave comments and thoughts with that chat box or that comment box. So please do feel free to utilize that. We definitely want to hear some of your thoughts as well. All right. So I think either Taylor or Enoque, one of you were going to chime in there as well.
Yeah.
I'll let Taylor
Yes.
go ahead, Mr.
Yeah.
Clearstory.
So similar to what Jeremy's saying, a lot of times I try to take the notes, just jot down notes in some capacity, whether that's, something as simple as texting myself, or if you're at a conference and you don't have access to your iPad or your computer where you can get on a Notion or a OneNote or, a tool or your CRM right away, text yourself the notes, or if you have their contact in your phone, there's note sections where you can add notes about that specific contact or the person you're talking to as well. But the other thing I like to do is, oftentimes when we've talked about relationships, we're just going to keep talking about relationships today probably, is you want to be able to make that personal connection with somebody. And a lot of times what I look out for is if somebody mentions, oh, I'm doing this in 3 months, or I had a project due that, at the end of March or April or whatever, or, my kid is performing in a concert or whatever, you jot that down and set a reminder to yourself around the time of when it happens. So then you can reach out to that person and, oh, hey, I talked to Enoch and his son has this event on, this day. Reach out to him and see how it went, right? And something like that is just going to keep that, you may not remember that right away, but it's important to keep that connection with that person so you can keep that dialogue going, even if there isn't a new project or something coming. And that continues, that continues whenever you talk to somebody, even if they're not somebody who can bring you work or bring you a new contract or whatever. You just want to be able to maintain that, and those tools to be able to remind you to do things like that goes a really long way.
Yeah, I was just thinking, you guys might also be pretty good at giving gifts and things and being like, hey, I think they actually like this thing, and writing it down quickly. Um, so yeah, definitely a skill set. That is a skill set to be able to know or be aware, like, oh, I should be logging this or tracking this or whatever the case may be. Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say my wife is really good at doing this. So she remembers everyone's birthday, right? So when we first
Props.
got together, I was like, man, you're so good at remembering all the birthdays. How do you know this, right? But now we share, like, we're a family calendar, right? So now I remember when people's birthdays are, and I can say happy birthday, but it's not because I did anything. My wife just logs in all this birthday. So if she meets you and she's like, we're gonna be friends, we put your birthday in our family calendar. So when your birthday comes up, we say happy birthday, right? And it's great that she does that, because I have people like, wow, no one wished me happy birthday.
Yeah.
Thanks for remembering. So that to say, logging the information is good, but being able to also share it with other people, because you might not always be in a position to remember to, reach out about the thing. But if someone else in your team also has access to those notes, so being able to, like, not just, like, capture the information, but put it somewhere where other people also have access to it is huge, because then, your team knows what's happening. Yes, you made a relationship, but now they don't have to ask the same information or look for the same information. They already know going in, like, oh, okay, this is when this guy's kid plays soccer or whatever, right? Like, this is when this is going on. They have this event happening. I can reach out. So yeah, capturing information, very good, but sharing it with other people in your team also, very, very useful. So finding tools that allows you to not just have it for you.
And that's where the CRM comes into play, like, directly, right? Like, that can be, especially if you're working on your team, everybody has access to the same CRM tools or, contact list or whoever. So you can easily share that through your CRM to your teammates, or if somebody's coming in to take over an account from you or something like that, right? That's going to be the simplest way to share amongst your team.
Actually, if dovetailing into that, Taylor, the one thing I think the most organizations struggle with is you and me might be on the same team. Maybe we're really friendly with each other. We talk at the water cooler all the time, but are we sharing that information? And that's where that CRM comes in. Because if I type in the client's name, oh, Taylor's already talking to them. It's really annoying when you start talking to a client like, I've already had this conversation and Taylor said this, and like, oh no. But the other tool I was going to add is a digital business card on our phones. I came across that. Oh my goodness. If they can send your information back, you don't have to have like a million cards. We all still do, but but you just tap, then you've got a record of everybody. Awesome tool. And there's several different platforms out there. So
awesome.
And just to add one more, LinkedIn. Like, you meet people,
you
want to learn about them.
Go
on LinkedIn. Like, LinkedIn. if you don't know, LinkedIn has a way to add people by just pushing the search button, and then you can scan them or they scan you, and then boom, you're friends. But the cool thing about that is, like, you could see, like, what they what events are they going to, what they follow, what they write, and stuff like that. And it kind of allows you to take that relation, and they can also see your stuff, right? So it kind of allows you to, it's a quicker way to like capture information without having to put a lot of notes.
So this is all a really good discussion. It's got me thinking about a few things pretty critically, or like I'm wondering how some things kind of have evolved. So especially with in light of all of the COVID shutdowns and not being able to do things in person and a lot less networking and events. But also simultaneously with being a more digitally connected environment, the ability of like things like LinkedIn Lives and Zooms and virtual events. How have you guys been seeing that change like business development efforts? I'm just genuinely curious because it seems like, especially in our industry, a lot of stuff is in person. But now we have so many digital tools and remote events. How is that looking on the business development landscape?
Yeah, I can kind of take that. So before COVID, everything was in person, almost everything. I don't think I went
Right,
to any like online BD
right.
related things, right? So COVID kind of forced us to go virtually, and a lot of organizations start running, I don't know, networking. I don't know if you guys remember those networking. I got tired of them after a while. This networking where you get to chat with other people in like this spaces. Like at first it was like
Yeah.
Zoom, and it was like a mess. Everyone's like everyone's talking, and then they had this platforms you could go in and like walk away, and then you
Mhm.
could just chat with people, and we kind of adapted to that, right? So people eventually we became used to that, but now things are coming back in person. I'm like there's still the hybrid space because it's been created, the tools are there. I'm a part of a board of one of the organizations here in Vancouver, PSMA, and what we've actually found useful was that we can't like because in person means you have to make the time and go there, drive to the place and whatever. But we kind of do like a mixed bag of in-person events and then online events, but it still allows people to go in and hear this talk and be able to network afterwards, or to say, hey, like I saw you at the talk, let's grab a coffee, right? So I'm noticing more like there's the hybrid happening where people can meet in virtual spaces, but set up a connect, like either to meet
Mm.
in one-on-one afterwards, like virtually, or meet at a coffee shop. And the crazy thing is like someone from Toronto can join like a event happening in Vancouver, and then be able to say, hey, Erin, can we grab can we like get online for like a half hour just to connect? Whereas you wouldn't have had that before because that person in Toronto would only go to Toronto events, they will never be able to connect with someone in Vancouver. So yeah, and I'm noticing that a lot. Like we had an event where it was like a healthcare event that we did
Mhm.
online, and you had people talking about the different things coming up in the healthcare. I think that was like last year or 2 years ago. But like now you can connect with those people without having to ever meet them in person first, right? So
Hmm. I
yeah.
would say so. Meeting virtually first. So that was one of the biggest shifts I noticed is people would be kind of they would rely on meeting virtually first, which is okay. That's fine. Like Enoch said, when you meet them in person afterwards, that's going to help. But I think like in terms of how virtual is affected, the simplest thing you can do is just turn your camera on always, right? If
Mm,
you and it
yes.
amazes me when people don't do that, and if you don't, it's so the thing I always say is like, well, if we sit in a conference room together, are we all putting bags on our heads and talking, but it goes a long way. Like I was
It's a
just
powerful visual.
right, right. So just turn
Yeah.
your camera on. You want to
Yeah.
talk to a person because when you do run into somebody in person later on, they're going to know what you look like and they're going to know that barrier is already going to be gone for them to come up and say hello. I was just at a conference a couple weeks ago and everybody I talk to, camera's always on, and there's some people that come up and talk to you that you have never met in person before, but the connection's already there because if you've met
Mhm.
already a few times and the face-to-face virtually happens, the barrier's gone and then you can kind of pick up right where you left off versus it being something entirely new. So if you're trying to fit the virtual into that, I think try and break down as many barriers as you can so when the in-person happens, it's as seamless as it can be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with both what Enoch and Taylor has talked about in regards to how it's affected business development. Definitely a hybrid, as Enoch stated, since the outbreak of COVID. And then Taylor earlier mentioned something about strategy, BD strategy, and that's something that I think is really important in how you spend your time. I'm a firm believer in the face-to-face. It just that's how you're going to get the deals done. But I also enjoy the fact that we can be all around the world and still have interactions like we're doing today. So you're able to meet people. And yes, not turning on cameras says a lot. In fact, there's always circumstances. Maybe you're traveling, you're in a train or whatever, right? Fair enough.
Right.
But if someone doesn't turn on their camera, it's like, okay, they multitasking. Is this being really important to them? Are they organized? There's a lot of things cross your mind, which shouldn't, because you should be focusing on the relationship, right? So I firmly believe that you should have the camera on, especially in business development. If you're a project manager and it's just the guys in the field, who cares, right? But in business development, you really need that interaction, right? So yeah, that's my feelings on the matter.
Can I add something more? It's just I was gonna say that one of the benefits of this is for those of us, I'm not including me, who are shy to meet people, right? Because I know BD, like it's intimidating to go out and meet people in person, like at an event, right? Like imagine being like a ground break and you're walking up to people like, hey, my name is Taylor. Well, Taylor's really good looking, so he could do that, right? But like some of us are shy and you don't want to. So I think the virtual to in person kind of, because it's almost like, well, low stakes, we're meeting virtually. And then it allows you to proceed to, like, when you meet them in person, like now, you're not like, you have a bunch of people you kind of know already in a space, and it opens up the opportunity to continue conversation. So I think for people who otherwise wouldn't have been drawn to business development before, the hybrid model has like opened up, like, a new set of people that, they're like, hey, I can do this because I've met with them and I've seen them before, and now I can, meet more people. And then it just allows them to just become used to meeting people from there.
Yeah, no, that's a really good insight as well. So it's almost like technology can also help pull in a different talent pool in a way to kind of open some of those other doors. So yeah, really interesting. So I think Jeremy, was it you who had mentioned Otter AI?
Yes.
Yeah, we've got another fan in the chat. So another commenter here about using Otter AI as a quick trick to help transcribe and track. So I guess it's a pro tip there. And then we have another interesting comment, which I'm curious to hear this group's take on it as well. So it's from Sanjeev. So with the emergence of AI and its impact, it means the end of trust, as you don't know if it's a person on the other side. And we haven't talked about AI quite yet, but I knew it would come up somewhere. So yeah, thoughts on trust, artificial intelligence kind of making its way into our processes and how to address that with building relationships.
Ooh, that's a
Yeah, it's a big one.
big question. So
Yeah.
I'm going to start off by saying, AI. I don't like the term because basically it's a search engine. It's a really good search engine. If you ask Google, they'll say it's a really good search engine they're competing with, right? But you're right. You don't. You can take the personal touch out of it. Obviously, we all get spammed every day by people using AI platforms for various things. So I'm taking the time when I want to communicate with people, if I'm using Grammarly or whatever, because those are forms of AI, to ensure that my personality comes through in the communications. Again, I'm a more verbal guy, so I typically like to phone people as well. But but we have to use the digital format, right? So I think if we're trying to avoid people thinking they're being spammed, it's important that you put your personal touch, something they're going to hear you say that's going to be in your written communication. That's sort of my take on it. So.
Yeah, and I think people need to also understand, like, AI is not like I don't know. We used to think, like, remember iRobot? Like this robot that's like gonna show up and make you coffee. Like I haven't. If there is one, let me know because that'd be great. That's someone making my coffee.
Soon
But
enough.
soon enough, right? Yeah. But like it's a tool, right? Just like everything else. Like you're the
Yeah.
person who's making the connection. It's a tool. They should be used, right? Like it'll help. It does help. Like it's not like a bad tool. Like I hear people, it's like AI is bad. Like it's not bad. Like there's it's a tool. So like Jeremy mentioned, you could use it like to start an email. You can use it to start like a post, right? But at the end of the day, you have to take the effort to actually make it your own, right? Because it's gonna
Mhm.
write you what it thinks you want, but you still like you're still you. So you have to make sure that like the message is that when people receive that message, they go, oh yeah, this came from Taylor, this came from Jeremy, this came
Yeah.
from Aaron, not some bot somewhere. Because I do get like all the time. Like every day I get multiple emails just pop in, right? Like bye, da, 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 da. I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
this is just a bot that wrote this. Like, who is behind this thing? So I think making sure that you're using the tools, but you're not letting the tools like just do like the tools doesn't become you. Like
Yeah.
you're just using the tools to, and I think that's where people would kind of be able to differentiate those who are actually just using AI the right way, or those who are just being lazy and just outsourcing their work to AI, right?
Yeah.
Their business development to AI tools.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what we were talking about, or like we use Gong, Read AI is out there, right? And all those can auto respond to emails for you based on a meeting, right? So it can almost
Yep.
look like it came directly from the conversation. But I think what we were talking about earlier is putting the personal touch that maybe an AI bot wouldn't pick up because you knew that that person's kids did this, or that person was into a specific hobby, or they mentioned to you something outside a specific meeting, throwing that into the response or into an email or a communication that you put out is going to add a personal touch to it, where only you, the person, could know that information and could type that information into the email or into any follow-up or anything that you do versus, an automatic action item list that an AI is going to generate for you. So being able to put your own personal information on even an auto-generated thing, I think takes it a really long way.
Yeah, that takes me back to, I think the way you said it, Jeremy, was if you're not gonna say, if they're not gonna hear you say it, then you probably shouldn't be putting it
Yeah.
into your AI stuff, but have it reflect stuff that you actually say. And that reminds me of, the reason why the Copilot, for example, is called or was called Copilot. It's like the human is in the driver's seat and you get this smart assistant, but it's just an assistant. That's it. So, yeah, us, the human beings, actually still need to be responsible and cognizant to have it really truly be us that's driving these processes. So yeah, really good question on AI. I'm sure there's a whole nother spinoff we could probably
Yeah.
get down into. But I do have some other topics that I want to ask this group about. So big question here. So maybe not, we'll see. So there are whole departments that cover just business developments, but in some cases, like other team members end up doing some business development, right? So who's actually doing BD? Like, what's the philosophy with
Yeah.
who's actually performing these processes?
That's a very good question. I'm glad that she asked this because when I worked in BD, people would just come to me like the BD guy, right? And I remember at
Yeah.
one point people even didn't realize that I actually worked in construction, that I used to be a superintendent, that I ran job, like what I mean? Like they're just like, you're the BD guy. Hey BD guy, what's next? Where's our project coming? Where like and I talked to some clients now who same thing. They're like, I'm the BD guy and everyone's coming to me to like look to me, and it's almost an unnecessary stress. I think the BD person should manage the BD process. That's
Mhm.
really what their job is for. But everyone is BD in an organization. Everyone, like you could be an intern, from like the intern to like the head guy. You're all BD, right? And I've said this before, and I remember like when I first went into BD role, I would invite all this younger guys. They're like, I'm just like a year in. I'm like, let's go to a BD event. Like, let's go to a
Mhm.
BD event. And the reason why I wanted to hone in to them that you are business development. I want you to meet the clients because you're executing for these clients, right? So if you go out there, you're like, I'm not BD, and then you don't realize that what you do on a project reflects what comes next, then you're not gonna get it, right? So the best BD is execution. If you're just killing it out there and your team is amazing, you're gonna get more work. If you do all this marketing stuff and you meet with clients, but then your execution team is just terrible, like no amount of marketing is going to cover that up, right? No amount of BD. You can have the best BD
Mm-hmm.
guy in the world. You can have Steve Jobs, like the best BD guy for your construction company. If you can't execute and your guys are absolutely just jerks and they don't treat the subs well, they don't treat the owners well, you're not going to get more jobs. So everyone does BD in whatever role they do. Like if you're pre-con and an owner asks you to do something, deliver it on time. Do the best you can do for that owner, right? Like if you're estimating and you're estimating stuff, like make sure that you're doing it the right way, right? Like if you're doing marketing, you're a receptionist, like you're doing BD, people coming to your office, their perception of your company is you when you're an admin, like you're responding to email, like so everyone in the company is doing business development, and that's yeah, that's my take on it.
Anything to add, I guess, Jeremy
I
and
do.
Taylor?
Oh, I alluded to it already, and I agree with Enoch. Everyone is part of the BD process. The key to it, though, is you can't do it in isolation. And I feel Enoch, when he was talking about that pressure and maybe even pain point, I got that sense in my shoulders here because when they come to you, right, and you're like, well, what's the next opportunity? It's like, well, it's a team effort, right? And again, going back to that term strategy, if we have an approach to how we're going to communicate, who we're communicating with, the tone of the communication and the talking points, but we're not sharing that with the rest of the team, then they're not all part of the BD team.
Yep.
Like they're not. So if I'm messaging the wrong thing versus someone else, then we're breaking the process apart. So the key thing is to have the strategy. Everyone knows the strategy, who's in the line of who's talking to who, then yeah, everyone's in BD. But ultimately, it's true. I really like what Enoch said. Is like, I want you to meet these people because you're deploying. You're delivering. It's a team effort. So yeah. So just putting a basic bow on that conversation. Everyone is in BD, but the key to that is everyone needs to know what that means.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. We used to do back when I was in BD, in a BD specific role too, when we would have, our regularly scheduled meetings with our team, and team being project focused people as well. We would bring all of them in and have the project managers or senior PMs, lead superintendents. They would be the ones who would try and inform the BD team itself of what they're hearing from the staff. So we kind of set an expectation by having this regular meeting. Hey, you guys are out in the field, you're the ones talking to the end users or the rep from the client or the designers that know about other things in the future. You're holding those relationships, help bring the information back to the BD department so the BD department can kind of manage the process. And to Jeremy's point, use our tools, use our CRM, use whatever we're using so we're all see that information in the right spot. Because Enoch's right, you're the one that's executing for the client, or the people out in the field are the ones that are executing. So you're the best representation for BD for the company, right?
Yeah, and just one last piece of that, right? Because there are BD people who are also used to operating like in a silo, and they like to keep everything to their chest.
Yeah.
And if you like, and they end up stifling the potential of a company, right? So as a BD person, like I've talked to some people, they're like, BD's for BD, like I'm the BD, and I'm like, yeah, but like you're just one person. Like something could happen to you, and then you're not there. Like you're literally just like that selfish. Like you're gonna hoard everything for you. So I think understanding even as a BD person that you're there to manage a process. You're not there to be like that BD, because I know some people in construction is all about like status and whatever. Like I'm the BD. I go to all the events. Everybody knows who I am. Blah 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 blah. But understanding that you're the rest of the team is BD with you and empowering them. And like Jeremy Taylor said, giving them the message, say, hey, like when you like say this, because talk to the people, like invite them in and to come along the ride with you. And I think you find that your organization would benefit tremendously from that versus keeping the silos.
Erin, if I could just add one more thing.
Yeah,
I
go
think
ahead.
when Enoque just touched on it, it reminded me about the fact that, there's business development and sales. And when, salespeople typically are, they get their compensation for what they do and they need to advance by what they do. When you put a salesperson in a BD role, you need to really beat that out of them because it's a team effort. Okay, maybe not beat, train out of them. Train out of them. Yeah. Okay.
We get you.
Got to be careful. Those terms are going to start beating people with sticks. But because in business development, it really is the team that wins. So if you have a business development person, it's all about, well, that's my relationship, or that was my win, or I'm going to sandbag that information. Oh, that is the worst for an organization. Where business development is use your CRM, share the information with C-level directors, everybody, so everyone knows to what's going on, and not doing that silo thing. I mean, so that's the only thing I would say. A salesperson, sales routines are not business development routines, and unfortunately, we see those two intertwined all the time, and it's not the same. That's all I was going to add to that. So.
Big insight. Yeah, I didn't even think of that piece of the whole puzzle there. So thanks for bringing that up, Jeremy. So I guess zooming a bit further out now. So we've talked a lot about, just what business development is, a little bit of the in and outs of it. When we look at the construction industry and all the different types of markets that are out there, there are so many different niches and things that one company can just focus on. So not just with like the different building types and like areas that you can focus on, there's also like regional differences too. So there's a lot of opportunity, if you will, to kind of specialize in one area or target a certain thing. How do you determine like who or where your biggest business development opportunities are? So it's kind of a little bit of like a chicken or the egg kind of thing, but yeah, curious to know the group's thoughts on that.
I think I can start here. I think you mentioned markets and building types. Focusing on markets, it's knowing what's important to the clients from the different markets, right? So if it's a development, or if it's a developer that's building a mixed use residential, they're gonna care about different things than like a healthcare client or a data center client or pharmaceutical client's gonna care about, right? So if you're working with somebody who, like in healthcare, pharmaceutical, they know a lot about their buildings, and you need to show them that you also know a lot about their buildings, right? So you need to be able to talk on the same language. Whereas if you're talking to somebody who's, developing other type of buildings, they may care more about the cost at the end of the day, or the schedule, or whatever's important. So I think knowing knowing your audience and what your audience cares about the most, that's super important to know. So that's gonna drive the way you're communicating to them. And talking about business development as a team, who from your team you're going to bring into those conversations. Because if you have an expert in MEP and you're talking to a pharmaceutical or a healthcare, you're probably going to want the MEP person there to be able to talk through all those systems, because that's what that client cares about.
Yeah, that makes me think of like back to my own experience too. I've been on a few historical renovation projects somehow, so can speak to that experience. But something that is totally different, like I'll just pick on like data centers, a little bit different than my own personal experience, so a little bit harder to speak to. So
yeah.
And
I think like Taylor touched on this, right? Having the expertise to like seek a certain market. So let's say you have no one in house that knows how to do healthcare. Well, unless you go out and hire healthcare specific people, you really can't target that market, right? So I think targeting a market where you have strengths and you have people that can talk about it, but also at the same time looking at like I think starting also understanding like what types of projects would actually excite your team or you as a company. Like what do you actually enjoy doing? And if it is, you say, hey, like we really think healthcare would be like great for us, then go out and find the people that would come alongside to target that market, right? And like really, because sometimes in construction we just do projects just to do them. But
Yeah.
I find it like the
Doesn't
time
go well.
like what's that? Just
Doesn't go
no, it
well if you
doesn't.
just do them. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like the projects I really enjoyed were projects that I just like I love doing them. Like I like building healthcare projects. I know a lot of people run away from that, but it was like that's what I love doing. Like tons of MEP, but I knew like what the end goal was for building that hospital, right? So because of that, like I went to work even when things were terrible.
Yeah.
I just enjoyed doing it. Like and, like I had a smile on my face and I did it. So I think understanding like what is going to excite your team, and then like can you get like do you already have the expertise in house? Do you need to go get the expertise and then that pursue
Hmm.
that specific market, right?
Hmm.
I think you
Hmm.
nailed it when you said like it put a smile on my face. Like, yeah, let's
Yeah, no,
have more smiles. Find those
that's right.
smiles.
Because like
Yeah.
when I did a project in Philly at Chop, they actually
Yeah.
brought in the kids. Like we were building extension center across from a cancer center, and they brought in the kids, and the kids were like, they drew stuff for us, and we had to interact with them, and it was so cool because this was at the beginning. Like we were just coming, like we just started
Mhm.
like level 1 or level 2, like we're coming out of the ground. And I remember going, wow, like look at this kids. Like I want to build
Yeah.
this thing so well for them because like they're gonna be coming to this facility. I had no
Right.
kids at the time. And now that I have kids, I'm like, man, like we need, so
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah. So enjoying what you're doing would help kind of a lot.
I, I agree with everything that was just said. To sort of round this and sum it up, in construction, the and business development again, tying into that sales and business development, sales goes go 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 go, where business development is talking to their estimating team, the pre-con team, going, okay, what's our forecasting for manpower and availability within regions, within the capabilities, like if it's healthcare versus a different type of commercial project, right? Because you might have a hot relationship or hot lead or whatever is going on, and you want to be able to develop that, but are you able to deliver, right? Are
Hmm.
you going to be open with that? So you really got to involve your whole team on where you're focusing in your segments and your markets, because you might have that great relationship, but the resources may not be able to marry up with
Hmm.
that. So again, everyone's in BD.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that relates back to another comment that we got in the chat, I think in response to something Enoch that you said, but Jeremy, you kind of just echoed, is that in a perfect world, we don't need BD if the project goes perfectly and it's on time, on
Yeah.
budget, you get the repeat work. But the reality is the project goes sideways and you need to grow your business. So BD group is essential.
Yeah.
With the
It's
comment there. So
something just popped in my
thanks,
head
Jeremy.
on this question. So in my role now, I work with a whole lot of different GCs that are building all different type of building types, and
Mhm.
I get to see them in construction and how they're acting in construction based on either their building type or their client's needs. And it's really interesting just to see now through the whole, everybody is BD, but how are we managing it for different markets? So obviously I deal with a lot of change orders in my current role, but I see how people are acting in a certain way based on their client. So if their client just cares about money and executing money and getting it through faster, they're going to act in a certain way. And it's really interesting. You can see the teams that know what their clients need during construction are going to be able to paint that are going to be able to have that positive outcome towards the end if they know exactly what's driving their client versus
Yep.
what's just doing what's helpful for themselves in the current moment. So it's fun to be able to see now, just who I work with and stuff and people I talk to now, the way they execute based on different clients' needs is
Mhm.
it's cool. And I think it touches on this topic we're hitting on here.
Yeah, and I was gonna just add to that too, to say that the project team, like I think someone like what Aaron you talked about, right? Like in a perfect world, we don't need BD. I don't know if we ever don't need BD because I think it's like everyone has their piece, right? Like I used to be in the military, and the military is this massive organization where everyone does a little bit of this, right? And it runs a whole cog. Like the U.S. military is massive. We deploy fast. We do, a bunch of stuff, but everyone does a little bit of piece. And if you take out at peace, like the whole thing comes crashing down. Like there's no like, oh, we don't need medics anymore. Well, like what are you gonna do, right? So it's the same thing. So the perfect scenario is always you're gonna need all pieces together, and it goes like, business development gathers information which they share with the project team, and the project team executes, gathers information in which they pass back to the, it's like a loop, right? It goes BD, pre-con, like estimating, right, all the way project, and then back to BD. So it's like a constant loop of info, like it's like an OODA loop. Like you're always repeating that information. So you kind of need all the pieces even though everyone's BD, but you still need the pass information to that department so it can continue to loop around, right?
Right, right. Um, we have a question here, I think in response to this topic. So Stephen, who is driving and why?
Who's driving?
Oh, like competing priorities with many drivers. I'm seeing two different comments here from the same person. So apologies if
Yeah, no worries.
my tech issues are kind of, this is funny. I see one comment, then I see two comments. I guess maybe who's initially driving that cycle, I think.
Of the BD cycle, like of the what you pursue. I mean, the
Yeah,
way
who
we
makes
did
the
it,
decision really of
yeah,
like
I
what
think
you say yes or no to? Yeah.
it's a group. I don't think the BD person should be the one who says, no, we're not going to pursue this. I think as a group, you should have your pre-con involved. You should have your operations manager involved. You should have the if you have a leadership structure where you have a president or business development leader or whatever, everyone should be involved in conversation. That's how we did it, where it's like, hey, like we got this big pursuit, right? Do we go after it? And then you say, hey, do we have the people? Like we created an actual matrix, not to throw in Kiese. We have that in Kiese, by the way. It's a go no go built in. It's like, we went through this, right? And we answered these questions, and it was like a unbiased way to drive the conversation and say, okay, like, yes, like we could pursue it, but it starts this time. We don't have the manpower. So now the ops manager is like driving the decision at that point, right? Or it's like, we need a lot of people are free at this time, so we should pursue this job, even though it might be the client might not be the ideal one, but we'll mitigate that by boom, 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 right? Or the business leader is going, hey, I'm looking at financials and this is what's going on. We need to bring in like 5 projects. So I don't care. Get me a job. And then that drives it, right? So there's multiple people driving. I don't think it's per se like one person, but but the decision should be made in a group settings. And sometimes the buck falls at the guy at the top and he makes a decision and says, this is what we got to do, and then everyone just has to do it, right? But I think in the ideal world, the best way to do it, it's like having multiple people be a part of the conversation.
Yeah. And it's healthy if you have more than one person that makes the initial call, and then it actually comes to fruition or actually turns into a real pursuit, right? You don't always want it to be just one person because their priorities may be honed in on something that isn't ideal for everybody. So if you have multiple people providing insight providing insight into the decision making for certain reasons, staff availability, dollars, schedule, all those things, then that's what's going to make your decision healthy is if you have people working together to make the decision, not just one person.
Yeah, I agree. I worked for a large electrical contractor, and they actually involved twice a week all the team leads throughout the regions, because everyone has something to contribute. And the approach works, right? They involve everybody in the decision-making process. So again, with estimating, making sure you should pursue it and so forth. And again, it's a team effort.
100%. Yeah. Collaboration. What is it? You go farther together. There's some sort of a phrase or saying like that. So 100%. Good question. So thanks, Stephen, for asking, and apologies for my issues with it popping up on my screen. So we're in the last like 7-ish minutes or so here. So if there are any other questions, now is a fantastic time to ask it, drop it in the chat, or leave a comment. So really good opportunity to ask this group here anything that you have in terms of BD or technology for BD. And while I'm waiting to see if anything comes up into the chat, I do want to ask each of you. So we kind of talked a lot about different best practices. We kind of brought up a couple tech tools here and there. What else has been helpful in terms of technical tools for business development in your experience and over the course of your career? If you had to share one with the group today, what would that be? I,
I mean,
What's it?
I see like a bunch of thoughts forming
Yeah,
quickly.
A
Yeah.
lot of tools.
Yeah, I know we have only a few minutes left, so I can keep it shorter. But I think if you're w- knowing the right tool for the right time is important.
Uh,
And what stands out to me and has helped throughout my career is if you're in BD and you're in a presentation setting and you're actually to the point where you're getting close to winning a job, using the right tools that can be client facing or owner facing to help you win that job. So whether that's, a fancy dashboard, whether that's a virtual BIM model that you're going to use in a presentation, whether you're going to, like, a fun story, we won a job for a news company and our whole presentation was set up like we were news anchors, like
uh,
using technology to
that's
kind
cool.
of fit in. Yeah. And knowing the right tool to fit at the right time has just helped throughout my career now working with customers. Using the right tools at the right time to help them is just going to help them build that trust in you. So even if it's not for today's job or the next one, they know they can rely on you to help them, with the proper tool to get the job done or to give them the information they need.
All right. And then just a quick shout out to Trisha. Thanks for bringing the quote in. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Thanks, Trisha. All right. So moving on, maybe let's go to Jeremy next. It looked like you had some thoughts on your tech tools that you like there.
Yeah, I mean, technology can either be an asset or a deterrent, and really know your audience. I mean, I guess it falls along the same line, knowing when to use it and when not to use it. And we all interact with different types of personalities. I know for a fact that a lot of people that I deal with is I put my phone away, and they have my attention. I learned that early on when cell phones became a thing, with a client where there was an emergency call that came in, but you rightfully said, you should never do that. It is a general, in general. And I've always thought about that. If I'm taking notes, like, because that's all I have is my phone, I'll actually tell people I'm using this to take notes. I'm not texting my friends.
Mm-hmm.
Because then they lose engagement, right? And it's just those little things, right? So it's using technology again appropriately and communicating what you're doing with technology. So
Yeah,
that'd be my 2 cents on the
100%. Like, what is it? There's another phrase out there, like attention is the most limited
Yeah.
resource out
Yeah.
there,
That's
or
very
most
true.
valuable resource out there. So there are a couple questions, but I do want to get to Enoque to
I'll go
share.
quick because for me,
Yeah.
I know they touched on a lot of stuff that I would have said, but what was useful for me, especially like if you just want to get started and you're like, I don't have any processes, I use Trello. I used like Trello was very useful. So that would be what,
Yeah.
it just allowed me to map out my processes in the BD management side of things. So if you're in BD role or you're just trying to figure out how do I manage all these things that are happening, you don't have a CRM or you have a CRM, but it doesn't like just get a Trello account. You could like, read up on what Trello does. I think it's a great tool to kind of get you started. So
Great. I'll also plug Kiese, so check out
yeah,
or
or
connect with
Kiese.
Yeah.
Enoque as
We do
well.
have a Trello-esque coordination things built into it. So
Yeah, that leads me to one last question, or maybe two questions here. So there is someone in the chat just wondering how, specifically for Enoque, how does a company go about evaluating a CRM for construction? I think we are out of time today to kind of fully answer that, but I will encourage you guys to probably talk afterwards.
yeah,
And
reach
then
out.
there, yeah, 100%. And then there is also a couple questions from Curtis just about, in general, construction tech, how it's been growing over the past couple of years, and some thoughts and questions around how bigger companies might buy out smaller tech tools. How do you go about integrating that and managing that marketplace? So a lot of really good discussion. Again, I would encourage anyone that we didn't have time to fully address your questions, just reach out to the group afterwards. I don't know if you guys want to share any contact information, but I assume you're on LinkedIn somewhere at
Yep.
least.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you could, I think LinkedIn would be the easiest way.
Yeah.
Just
Yep.
shoot me a message on LinkedIn. I'm always responsive
Yep.
right away.
Yeah, LinkedIn.
Yep.
Yeah.
LinkedIn.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I absolutely appreciate being able to get like a first row seat to a master class or master tips in business development for the industry. So this has been fantastic. Appreciate your time. Also appreciate our audience for engaging and kind of tuning into this content.